I'm here to give you a few points about virtual reality, which is a very, very real thing that's coming up in the next, probably the next couple of years. A really exciting new platform that we should probably all look at, especially at how much it's connected to the fast growth evolution of mobile gaming over the last few years. A few words about myself and about Sidekick. I've been in the game industry for more than 20 years. I had a few game studios, game production house, and service and technology companies. About 5 years ago, a team that's been really working all around the world started Sidekick. The decision to start it in Tel Aviv was not only because we are all originally from there, but also because we felt there's a lot of technology coming from Israel, a lot of services, as you can see downstairs at the floor, but there was not enough really content companies that were focusing on the more generic development capabilities of game, and we felt that the time was right. Being there, we actually started to work with a lot of technology companies. And the first main partner and client we had was PrimeSense, the guys who were doing the brains of the Kinect at the time. We're doing a lot of motion games with them. Later that progressed into creating an XBLA title for Square Enix, Mini Ninja Adventures for Kinect. And that extended into working with other companies at that market. A lot of very cutting-edge technologies, like working with Leap Motion, with Intel, on a number of technologies, including the latest RealSense camera, and obviously lately with the guys from Oculus and Samsung and Google on VR. As we extended our business, we extended it toward mobile, like most people. Working with other publishers, DNA, Disney, Majesco, and creating with them game. And we felt that a lot of it came together when last year we got a call from Oculus and they showed us the prototype of what would become the Gear VR. Virtual reality is becoming something that is very accessible. It's becoming real because it's becoming affordable. It's becoming something that people can enjoy very quickly just by taking their smartphone and inserting them into one of any holders and goggles that are coming to market. You see the high-end stuff coming from Google from Samsung with the Gear VR, but you see a lot of other headsets coming in, including the Google Cardboard, including Zeiss, and including a lot of indie makers of headsets who essentially, with technology or even without major technology, allow your smartphone to become kind of a smart viewmaster of the time, stereoscopic view, whether 3D or not. Is something that people enjoy, and for sure we're going to see other major companies coming into this market with more VR and more augmented reality platform, including the one that we've seen from Microsoft a couple of weeks ago. When we were approached to bring games into this new platform, our approach, pressed with time and with budget, was actually to leverage a game that we already have. What we did was to take a game called Romans for Mars, a mobile game that is free to play and is still doing well on the stores. In Romans for Mars, you are playing a soldier that is defending his castle all around the globe from invading aliens that are coming from Mars. Being stationary in one place and shooting at aliens as they advance toward you was actually great way for us to base on and move that and adapt that into VR. You don't move, you really look around as the waves of alien come to you, and then you shoot, whether it's automatically or by using simple control of tapping on the side of the headset, as you shoot and as you progress into the game. What was very important for us was to learn and adapt into the technology as the technology progressed and as we learned what worked and what did not work. It was very important for us and for everybody that was involved in the Gear VR product to have an experience that was very welcoming and wouldn't necessarily create crazy, uncomfortable experiences for the players of the game. Everybody was super excited about the VR. Everybody was super, excited about trying to create new type of experiences. At the same time, like any project, you play once, you play twice, it's become something that you work on. You forget very quickly that most people that will play the game would actually experience VR almost as the first time while playing this game. This was a very important lesson for us. We took the game, we took the speed of the game, we took the experience, and very quickly we found out that when we did user testing and people played that game for the first time and in their one of the first time session into VR, they didn't want that speed, they wanted something that was more easy. And I think that would keep the same way over the next couple of years at least. Everybody that is doing a game now for VR, whether it's the more premium platform on PC, definitely on the more mass market phone version, needs to remember that people are still as enthusiastic as they are. People still experience VR the first time, and you can't get too intense with your experiences. Slow down, get a welcoming process of the players into VR, kind of ease them into what the game is or should be, down the development road. The viewpoint of the player is really becoming something that is super important, more than probably other games or other medium, I should say, where you have a stationary screen, whether it's small screen or big screen. The camera now is really the eyes a lot of time of the players. The player is actually controlling the camera, and when they move and getting immersed in the world that you are creating for them, their mind is already getting wired to understand that this is the experience. This is where it can become very magical moment, or it can become very uncomfortable moment for the players. What we've seen and others seen, that obviously if you are fixed in one position, maybe doing small moves, but very much having the player movement control the camera, people feel more comfortable. They feel they're part of this world. The world is not swirl around them without any type of control. And that sense of control is easing your mind in feeling that everything is okay and you're not getting any sort of element that is basically connected to seasickness as we know it. The possibilities of creating games for that type of experience are actually pretty vast. We've seen games where you have kind of a God mod look at a game that can be platformer, that can be kind of board game. So a lot of different possibilities and options. But definitely any type of game where you don't move like rides is preferable early on for a long-term experience that's more than just kind of a few minutes of a crazy ride. We're working on about, I would say, 4 games right now for VR. Some of them you can't just stand. You want the player to move around. You can't get away from that completely. When you do need to do that, when you do need to move the player inside the world, you want to do that very slowly. You want to do that very, in kind of an easy way. You want the environment to be very supportive of that type of motion, to allow the player again, and the player mind and brain, to understand what's going to happen. Any type of quick jerks and moves, again, unlike a roller coaster ride, can make some of the player extremely uncomfortable, and that's not something that we probably want to do in most of our games. The world itself, one big element that actually we had to put way more resources than we thought we should, or we planned, was all the interface around the game itself. Usually in a game, we'll have the famous HUD, or all the information, the health bar, how much points and money you accumulate in the game. All that doesn't really work very well in VR. It actually confuses people and actually creates some people even sort of seasick as they move their head in the world to see stuff that's kind of hanging out there. Somehow it works well for F-16 pilots and for Iron Man. Most people, not so much. What we had to do, and what a lot of other developers had to do, was to connect the HUD, connect all that information into the actual world. So a lot of that information was popping out through the game, and we'll see that when hopefully we'll get a video running, as part of the world. We've seen that where stuff that we had to give you information about all the time was part of the castle or curved on stone, practically or virtually. We had to have some of the settings really provided you as something that was very tangible. One of the nicest example where the option to have automatic fire or not, and what we created was a kind of a lever on the side, which by looking at it and tapping, you would switch it to an automatic mode or not, and then look back at the shooting gallery in front of you, and that just happened. It's actually very fun when you do it right, when you do it nice, when you create it as part of the very physical world that's in front of you. It's becoming fun part of the actual kind of gameplay, almost a mini game by itself. And it's something that you definitely need to plan for when creating or adapting games for virtual reality platform. That pacing, again, being a new experience, a new medium for a lot of people, things need to be much slower at first. The experience is very intense by itself, and all the action around it need to be adapted for that type of experience. You need some breaks. Some stuff is becoming too intense, or for a long time, you want people to kind of rest their mind more than their eyes as you progress inside the game. The flip side of that is actually rewarding players. We've seen that in a lot of mobile games where positive feedback, a lot of audiovisual rewards, or just outright explosions and fireworks saying that you did just great, extremely intense in VR in a good way. People like that, people like to see that, and when you do that in virtual reality, it's just becoming something that surrounds you as a player, and you can play a lot with that over short bursts. And the last point is the production and budget. Virtual reality is 3D by nature. It doesn't mean that all the games need to be 3D. And that's definitely something we're exploring, and we're encouraging any of our partners and satellite studios to explore as well. But it does mean that unlike the maybe easier 2D environment and production that you've seen on mobile, here you need to plan for longer time of production. You need to plan for the right team members to be in and be more involved as you create the world, as you adapt it, and as you make sure that you have elements of the game and the environment active, ready, animated, even if you look up, even if you look down, even if you look outside of the action zone that's in front of the player by default. That's about it. I think. Thank you very much. Well, the average statistic talks about 10 to 15% of the people that are more affected by seasickness. It's not everybody, but the more intense the experience is, more people would be affected. Essentially, any type of uncomfortable feeling is really connected to the fact that your eyes tell your brain that you're now riding on a plane, but your ears, the balance system, tells your brain that you're just sitting somewhere and everything's cool. It's actually the opposite to seasickness, where you are moving on waves up and down, but your eyes tells you you're almost stationary, because usually you look at the horizon. The end event for both cases is pretty similar. Your brains feel that something's wrong. Maybe you ate something wrong, and you have that uncomfortable feeling. Essentially, I think very quickly we will see a lot of rides. There's people are sailing, people are going up on rides in Disneyland and all these parks. People like that. Definitely, we've seen when younger people, they don't mind. As you get more adult, more older, more and more people get that feeling, that uncomfortable feeling, if you're not careful. Definitely early days, I think a lot of us want to be more careful about the experience. There's so much we can do before throwing people kind of through crazy fly-throughs. Yeah.
You were talking about the shooting and this constant movement, if the shooting, how do you fix the recoil on like a shot with the person not moving with the shot itself?
Well, a lot of time what you do is you're stationary, you do your shooting, and then either you move the person to the next point, kind of on a rail to the next point where they'll shoot or do whatever, kind of from one point to another. That's, I see a lot of that happening. Moving and shooting together, again, it's tough. A lot of time when, if anybody worked on any type of simulator, whether it's car driving, shooting, flying a plane, you find that a lot of people are not great pilots or not great drivers. So you want to be very accommodating and very forgiving in any type of game you do, definitely if it's VR. Yep.
I was wondering if you could talk to us if you've experimented with any of the control mechanisms that exist for VR. There's a couple of demos here using gamepads here today, and I've seen a lot of demos that involve just like staring intently at things to activate them, and that's obviously not very good. What experiences have you guys had? Well,
controls are still kind of a big open question. There are no default controls other than no controls at all. This is why in some of the games you actually use where gazing or where you look as part of the control, because that's the default and that comes with any type of headset. We've seen games like, or platforms like the Gear VR or the Google Cardboard with either a touch screen on the side or kind of a virtual button on the side, and that gives you the first initial control. The touch screen of the Gear VR actually allows you to do swiping, tapping, a lot of different controls that are more similar to a touch screen, essentially. But at one point, you do need a controller for the more elaborative game. And I think what we'll see is that for most people, the simple tap would do for simple type of gameplay and experiences. And for the more gamer market, I want to say premium market, they'll probably buy any type of Bluetooth controller, exactly like the one that comes with the early versions of the Gear VR. There's always a lot of discussion whether control is part of that package that people will buy or not with any one of the makers of the headsets. Still an open question, kind of a short answer. We are, one note is that at Sidekick we're trying to develop the games, or as much of the game where you will not need controls, or no more controls other than basic tapping. That's always a challenge, but it is the new medium. It is the part of what VR is right now. It doesn't always work.
So Guy, I think we have the video working now.
This is the trailer of the original Romans for Mars, and you'll finally see what I was talking about. Volume. Yeah. So mobile game, it actually came out on iOS, Android, as well as Microsoft Windows Mobile and Amazon. Zeus gives you the ability to guard the Earth from those little Martians that are coming from Mars by the god Mars. But your task is to defend Earth, and you do that by tapping on these incoming aliens, different type of aliens, using some godly powers like this lightning, as you play through the game and defend Earth. That kind of viewpoint actually worked pretty well when we did the game. Okay, let's switch into the 360 version. So this is the viewpoint from you in VR. You look around, there's actually stuff that's behind you on the side of where you look, but the action is pretty much in front of you, using about 100 to 120 degrees action. This is the stereoscopic view. A lot of the environment, a lot of what we did was the same. We actually had to put more energy on creating the environment that you can see, left and right, some of the HUD, some of the elements that were on the HUD. Now they're kind of tangible part of your environment inside the game. We put more resources on creating a nicer bow and arrow experience. And had to put a lot of more resource in creating the UFOs, in creating a lot of that very living environment where it's just fun even just to look up and you see those UFOs flying above you, and you feel the tension of an Martian invasion coming toward you. This is, again, either automatic shoot or shoot by tap. Gives you type of different tactical abilities that the more professional player love to play around, and each one has their own style. Yep, this is pretty much it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.